Hey guys, Andy and Spoken Label back in the house. Not on a Sunday because we're out tomorrow, but we're on a Saturday afternoon just for a change. And we're over to a wonderful part of the world today, over to Wales. We've got a great poet with us today. You know, the poet actually sent me a friend request on Facebook recently, Rhian Elizabeth here. And I don't think she expected me to say, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of you. Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you want to come on Spoken Label?" With 2 minutes of adding me. So it's like about a couple of weeks later, we're here now. So okay, Rhiannon, tell us a bit about yourself as a person then. Where all your creativity came from? Because I know you've got quite a story on this.
Yeah, well, first of all, you said I'm in wonderful Wales. It's been raining in Wales for the past 2 months, literally straight.
We've had 10
So
months of it in Manchester, so I know what you mean, right?
yeah, it's hideous. So yeah, I'm in Wales. I don't know. You asked me where my creativity comes from. I think I was bored a lot as a child. Like I was an only child. I grew up as an only child. My brother and sisters had sort of like 17 years older than me, so they left home long before long before I was born. So yeah, I think I was just bored a lot, and so when you're bored, your imagination has to do it, create the entertainment for you, I think. So I ended up just writing sort of lots of stories and things like that. Um, just to sort of pass my time. I think, when your world is boring, you have to make it more exciting one up. And it did get me in lots of trouble, to be honest, as a child. I think that's where the creativity comes from. I was always making things up and writing stories and things like that. Um, and yeah, I remember taking a story or a poem I'd written into school and my teacher saying it was brilliant. And then I think when somebody gives you that praise, you want it more. It's really addictive when someone says you're good at something or praises you. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Just being bored as a child and you know making worlds up and things like that. Yeah, that's
Brilliant. No,
it.
no, no, sounds good to me. Good to me. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, same for me, really. I growing up, because like it's, I grew up that same sort of thing. And I took writing seriously quite a bit later than you did. So, but yeah,
Mm.
I agree with you. Now, I know today you've done 3 books, and you've done this in a way that's an opposite way to the way I'm writing nowadays. Because I was writing poetry straight from when I was a child, and last year, the past 2 years before that, I've moved on to writing other sorts of fiction now. But you've went the other way. Because I know your first book back in 2014, £6, 8 ounces, actually was a novel. And then
Mm.
obviously you went into poetry after that with The Last Polar Bear on Earth. So I've not read any of these books, but I'm fascinated to really learn more about them. So tell us then, first of all, what made you bring out £6, 8 ounces as your first book?
Well, it's basically a fictionalized version of my life up until 16. Growing up in the Rhondda Valley in South Wales. Yeah, literally a fictionalized version of that. It's just a fascinating place to grow up. I mean, I don't know if you know of the South Wales valleys, but they're sort of ex-coal mining towns, and there's a lot of sort of poverty and things there. But it's such a place full of characters and stories. So that's where the novel came about. I was in university, and we had to sort of write memoir writing, and it just developed from that. It became a couple of stories that turned into a novel.
Ah,
I
right, right.
was like 24 at the time, submitted it to Seren. It was my first thing I ever submitted to anyone, and they accepted it, which was quite mad. So that's how that came about. And it's quite cool at the moment that the TV company is adapting it into a TV series. Um, so hopefully something will come of that because I think it would be great to see some Welsh drama on TV that's accurate and actually portrays the lives of people there,
Well,
as
if
opposed to just your Gavin and Stacey kind of stuff.
fingers crossed. And well, if this happens, let me know. I want you back on
Yeah.
here again. We'll do a deep dive on that. I promise you, right? Because I didn't know about that bit. So you caught me on the
Mm,
hop there, but definitely both fingers crossed there. So
yeah,
okay,
hopefully.
where did him then? Obviously, between that and 4 years later, obviously you'd made a
Mm.
move, hadn't you, on straight into poetry. So what made you want to change direction?
I think I started writing poetry when you're in school. you made to write little poems. We used to have like a St. David's Day celebration. We'd always have to write poems for competitions and things. I've always written poetry, but never saw myself as a poet because, you know, I hadn't studied it. I hadn't, read that much poetry. But I was a part of the Hay Festival Writers at Work program in 2016, and we had a workshop and with Gillian Clark, and she came in and she just got us all writing poetry, and I just caught the bug from there, to be honest. It was like literally wrote one poem and I was like, wow, this is just great. I want to explore this more, and just kept writing more poems and things, and then again submitted them to a publisher, and that's it's as simple as that, really. And I'm still learning a lot about poetry. I mean, there's so much I need to read, there's so much I need to learn about techniques and things, I'm not, I mean, again, I people keep calling me a poet, but just, whatever comes out, and I call it a poem. But I'd like to, I need to learn a lot more about the art form and things like that. But it just happened by accident. It was Gillian Clark at the Hay Festival. Yeah, which was,
I think it's the best way because happened a lot of me, a lot of the creativity I've done. Because like when I first started really getting going with poetry, I was 40. It's like I'm 52 now. It's like I never envisaged 12 years later of the directions it would lead you off into.
yeah,
Creativity, I think for me is important. You never stand still with it. And I can see when people read your book, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, it's a book. There's a lot of different angles you've done on it and styles and the way you approach things. And it shows that the restlessness of your nature as a creative person, I think, which I recommend straight away. So, all right, okay. We're going to talk now then about your book, like I said to you. And people are wondering, and writers send me the manuscripts to have a look at. I do a deep dive. Deep dive. Now, I picked out 10 of the poems to go and have a chat about because I thought, I was telling you half jokingly before we came online, I could have talked about the full book here, broke each poem down, but we'd have been here to midnight.
yeah.
Probably not a good idea. So, but yeah, okay. Before we start then, okay, tell us about the origin of this book then. Where did the title Girls, etc. come from?
Well, I had all these poems, like I said, Gillian Clark wrote a book, and then that was 6 years ago now. So 6 years is a lot of poems. So I had all these poems together, and I wanted to put them into a collection. And the theme running through them was girls, whether that was poems about my daughter, poems about exes, poems about my mother, famous women. Like this, the theme chose itself. It was all about girls, and the etc. bit sort of covered me to chuck a few sort of sneaky poems in there that weren't about girls.
Clever. No, I
Yeah,
like it. I like the subtleness there, definitely. Now,
yeah, it's just about girls and all the girls that have had an impact in my life, or have shaped me in some way, in negatively, positively. Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful book. It really is. Because, okay, I'm going to go ask you. Tell us first of all then about the poem which starts the book off, September the 30th, 2005. This was really clever piece. This, 'cause I loved the reference that started off this piece. This is how it starts for us. And I thought it was brilliant because then if I finished piece off, we are both still screaming. But starting the book off with this is how it starts for us. It's great because it leads you like straight into it, like the first line from a novel. That's what I thought. Really, really clever stuff. This but tell us about this poem, and then first of all, I'll ask you another question as well.
Well, September 30th, 2005 is when my daughter was born.
Ah, right.
So,
I was wondering, right?
yeah, it's as simple as that. Yeah, that was when she was born. And she's the most important girl in my life. So it made sense to start the poem off there. And in many ways, I feel that date is when my life actually started, or the second part of my life, or a different life. When you become a mother, you have a completely different life. You change. The person you were before that is a completely different person. So it just felt like the natural place to start. And I said that we'll probably come on to that later, but the bookend with the poem about her as well. So it's just a nice sort of bookend.
Yeah, there's a lot of symmetry in this book, and You're right. I thought it was, again, I'm gonna keep going about it today, but that's my podcast. But no, it is. It's why did you do the split stanzas on the page in this poem then?
Just to have the, again with poetry, you can do whatever you like. You can play around with how it looks. And I just, it felt like it was me and her, the two ends of the umbilical cord, I guess, which
That's what I thought.
represents the poem. Yeah, so either end
Yeah.
of it.
That's pretty what I thought on that straight away. I got that connection on it. So yeah, no, great stuff indeed. Now, I really like the fact when you change gears on the second poem in the book, The Daughters of Eden, because this was like when you really took a step backwards in things. So now, but yes, I loved again where you're very, very good at your first lines where think of the garden. It really, really sets the scene again. And I also like the use of the line, we know what happened next, which allows you to change gears and the piece. So tell us about this poem then.
This poem, The Daughters of Eden, again, it was just my, I guess, need a way into telling people that this book is about two females in a relationship as opposed to a man and a woman. So that's basically the first intention, was to let the reader know this is a book about lesbians, a lesbian relationship.
Yeah, straight away. Yeah, I think you've done it very subtly there. Like it's and it showed. I got it straight away in that second piece in, because it was like the first piece was like a snapshot. I got that. Then I saw the second one. I thought, oh, this is really, really subtly wrote. No, excellent stuff.
Yeah, and it says about the Garden of Eden and the story of Adam and Eve, and and how that went wrong for them, and just how it goes wrong for me, I guess, as well throughout the book. Just setting the reader up to let them know that this isn't going to be sort of a straightforward book about poems and things like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's the next piece I want to talk about, which follows on that, was we went a different direction, was Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to let you tell us about this piece then.
Yeah, that I was really worried that this was going to be a really depressing book, and that everyone was going to think, oh God, this is just so miserable, and it's all about abuse and guilt and everything. So I just wanted to put a few sort of humorous poems in there as well, even though this isn't really funny either. But this is a true story about when I think I was in university. I was 22 and really liked this girl, and we both liked Love Actually for some reason, the film. And I thought it'd be a really good idea to get up on a wall. I don't know if you've seen the film, but
oh yeah, I've saw it. So
that's around Christmas time. You kind of forced to watch it, even if you don't want to watch it.
Use a drink helps out with that film for me, John.
Baileys or something with it.
Whiskey in my case.
He's holding up these cards in front of Keira Knightley, and he's telling her he loves her and things. And I actually did that, and it's just the most. I think about it sometimes, and it's just the most cringy memory I have. I literally
Yeah, I think I'd cringe on that as well. So yeah,
I shiver every time I think of it. I thought, oh, this would be great. I'll just write about that just to get it out of my system. But this has got a deeper meaning to it, as well. I did silly things, like that I thought were, which obviously really weren't.
Yeah, it just shows you sometimes what happens in the film isn't a good idea for happening in real life. That's just I've been there, done that. So
and she definitely wasn't Keira Knightley either. And but yeah, it didn't work out. But again, that's what a lot of the poems are about. Just things you do when you're younger, and when you look back at them and you cringe, and yeah.
No, it does. It's got that sort of memories piece, and it's an excellence as well. The next one we'll talk about. This one actually surprised me a little bit, actually, because girls don't hurt girls. Because not because of your personal content in it. Because I was a bit taken back. I've just fairly recently watched the first one in ages. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Now, if anybody knows that film, that's when Betty Davis and John Crawford, which have both had history in the film industry anyway, and doing a film together, by all accounts, ended up hating each other throughout the full of the thing.
They were vicious. They were vicious. Yeah. You always have to pick a side, whether you're on John's side or Betty Davis's side. But yeah, I just love that. I love the old they don't make them like that anymore. You
I
don't get
wish you
stars.
did.
You don't get
You know,
stars like that anymore.
no,
You
no,
know?
no. You won't get it. You sometimes you wish you could see two actors you know are known for hating for put them in a film with each other and just watch them kick off. And it was absolutely
Brilliant.
brutal,
Yeah.
brutal. So okay, I have to ask you about the content of this poem, then. What made you want to do Girls Don't Girls as a film, as a film, man, poem? Because there's lots of lines I want to ask you about this one, because it's one of my favorite pieces in the book, this one, actually.
Well, there's a lot of poems in the book about, abuse in lesbian relationships. And I think I tried to introduce that with the Girls Don't Hurt Girls, because I've been having sort of a lot of discussions about it with various people and charities and things. And I think it's not a well-known thing, when you see adverts about domestic abuse and TV shows and things, it's always sort of a man uh doing the violence against a woman, and you never hear any of these narratives of women committing things like that against other women. And obviously it happens, and women do it to men, and so this was a Girls Don't Hurt Girls was um just a way to introduce that. And again, this poem talked about the reason why I didn't go to the police at the time about certain things that happened in my life, and because of that narrative that we've got in our minds, that women don't do this to other women. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the point. It's the point.
yeah.
It's the point. So, and I agree. There was a lot, and again, like I said, it was such a personal bit. I don't really want to go into a lot on this because obviously it's trigger warnings in this one. People are watching this podcast today, which I should have said before, truth be told of you. But like I loved the use of the split lines, and obviously it was different viewpoints, but this wasn't like that. She hurt me. And I got the mirroring between Davies and Crawford on that. And then you had like the italics that come straight after that. And then which again took it in a different direction, I know, but what made you want to use the last line in italics and bold? And obviously I could tell by the content. Tell me again, and next time I'll do it harder. I know what was going on with that. But was there a conscious decision to actually use the bold and the italics at the end of that?
Yeah, I think because that is the message that was supposed to be really loud, to not tell, to not keep secrets, and to not go to the police, not tell anybody what's happening. And the bold was just to emphasize the loudness of that message
Yeah.
that would have been in my head, or been.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah, it was like an internal and external monologue flashing out that one line to me. Yeah, no, fantastic stuff. I loved also the next piece as well. Mother and daughter are ripping. Now, I'm going to select. I loved the way with this. I'm guessing this piece it went through quite a few drafts because the last line turns the whole poem on its head, and I'm not going to tell people what that is, but it's beautiful wrote throughout. So, tell us about this poem.
Mother and daughter ripping. My daughter's 18 now. I think I wrote this poem a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've got kids or no.
No, we've got plenty of nieces and nephews, and that's enough for me.
No, it's about living with a teenager, and about a teenager living with a mother as well. And it's just about that tension and the arguing and the battle that goes on between you two. The two of you. And so that was a poem that I wrote. I think it was during the summer holidays, and we were just at each other's throat constantly, and so yeah, it just tries to express that the again of wills. Yeah, it's interesting living with a teenager. I mean, she's great. She's like, she's a dream kid, really. She's 18 now. She's going to uni and she's fab, but living with a mother and living with a daughter is a difficult thing. So, but there's a 10 poems in there, but I also wanted to put, the reality of life as well, and it's not all.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I must admit with this piece, when I first read it, the second reading I tweaked, I got it with you and your daughter. I actually initially thought it was about you and your mother, actually, truth be told you. Yeah.
It could be. I'm sure that I made her want to go to a meadow and rip flowers out of the ground because I frustrated her so much. But it's actually interesting you said that, because it could be exact. It could be about my mother and me. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very ambiguous, and I think that works really
Mm.
well with that piece. And that's why it's again, it's a beautiful piece. Next, oh, sorry, folks, I knocked my headphones off. And yeah, the next one, we're going a bit more unusual territory. This next one, and I'm going to have to ask you to pronounce the name of this for me as well. It's Dear Harriet.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well,
this
Harriet
was
was
I studied this poet at uni
yeah.
a few years ago, and she's not, I wouldn't say that well known.
No, I mean, I traveled to Sweden in 2018. In I went to a place called Tranås, and Harriet, this poet, I can't pronounce her name either. Um, I know I have a lot of Swedish friends listening to this, so I don't want to embarrass myself. But she was a poet. It says she's not she's not well known around the world, but she was actually from this place that I went to, and we had a guided tour of the place, and the tour guide was telling us about her, and she just had a fascinating life. She was um poet and painter, and she had tuberculosis, and she was um put into an asylum, and she spent the majority of her life there, and it's just so sad. And the asylum was by one of the lakes that we swam in every day while we were there. The building's actually still there, and I would just be swimming in this lake, and you could see the asylum, and I was just thinking of her trapped in there that whole time.
Yeah, I think you do with that because it's.
Mm.
I've read up on it before because I studied the poet in question. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name out of respect to the family. I make a fool of myself. But her most famous poem is Beatrice Aurora. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, that which I had studied before. And it's a beautiful poem. But like I
Mm.
said, yeah, it was a fascinating piece to read that because I was on that and I got another dedication bottom and I thought, oh, well, that's something unusual. So no, excellent.
And
Now,
I've got MS as well, so it was kind of when I sort of wrote the line, knowing something of suffering, I was thinking of her, and I was thinking of myself, and perhaps years ago I would have been sort of locked up with without treatment somewhere, and it was just that mirroring of our sort of circumstances, how we both poets, and both suffering with not suffering, but both have an illness.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, and yeah, her life was fascinating, and I wish more people knew about her and her poetry and her
yeah.
paintings, which are beautiful as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think it shows really what your poem raised a really good point on there was the simple fact was it shows you how mental health and mental illness are dealt with differently in previous generations. It was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you've been to Manchester where I live, but straight in the centre of Piccadilly Gardens 100 years ago, there's a massive mental asylum there was. There's a lot of
Mm.
people up in there all the time. It shows, like I said, she died, what, 31? She's very young, mind you. So
Exactly. Yes, it's awful that her life she would have had so much more to give. And just thinking of her trapped in there and the lake outside the window, which is the most beautiful, lake you can imagine, massive, Lake Salmon. Um, I can just imagine her sitting there and looking at it and knowing that she can't go out, and you know, but she still managed to create so much beautiful work. Even maybe that made her work. Maybe that's what made the work, the confinement. But
I
yeah,
think
she
it,
really sort of touched me, and yeah, I felt the fact I'd ended up in that place in Sweden, and that she'd been there. I just had to write about it. Like I said, the girls, etc. She was one of the girls I was thinking of at the time, and really wanted to include her in the book.
yeah, no, I have to because it's a beautiful poem and it's a horrible story
Mm.
that happened to her, unfortunately. So I agree.
Mm.
Love Without Tongues.
Yeah.
Next poem I want to talk about is a complete change in direction. I love this piece. Now, there's a lot of memories in this piece, and it's chat school day memories, which obviously I can see were actually obviously happened to you. Some of which, in a different way, I can relate to from school myself. But I loved the structure on this when you talked about we fancied a lot of girls, and you mentioned what they were like and the structure like that. Tell us about this poem and what made you do that part of the poem like that.
I'm just trying to find it, so I can make something up and tell you why I wrote it. Well, it's basically about my best friend in high school, and it's quite interesting. We were both gay, but we never talked about it. It was quite funny. We both just sort of fancied girls and, you know, did all these different things. But we never talked about it, which was quite interesting. Obviously now we're older, we sort of acknowledge that we were both going through that, and it's just a shame that we didn't actually talk about it, because we could have sort of helped each other navigate through the difficulties of being in a valley school and sort of dealing with everyone being sort of homophobic and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we fancied a lot of girls. I wanted to put it like that. I just wanted to make a list of the girls that we fancied, and pretty much that we fancied every single girl that we saw. Yeah, which is not entirely true, but yeah. So it was like girls who you know, yeah, it just lists all the girls that we fancied, and I just wanted to make that list long, you know, to just to show how many girls we fancied, and yeah, we were just.
I think you just case of you looking at
that. That's just kind of.
Sorry, go on. Pardon me.
No. Then this poem was just sort of a dedication to her. Really, we don't see each other as much anymore, but yeah, and Love Without Tongues is just the fact that we weren't sort of romantically involved together, and we didn't talk about anything we were going through, and we both were going through difficult things in our lives. And I just looked back on our friendship, and it was interesting that we never ever talked about the things we were going through. We both knew what we were going through. And maybe that's why we put our focus into girls so much, so that we didn't have to talk about the serious things, or the, you know, all the painful things that were going on for us both at home. We could just sort of, you know, be, you know, we fancy this girl, we fancy that girl, and make
that's what I got.
Yeah.
There's an innocence in that piece. I mean, you did it that way in that listing. I mean, that's what I did it. It showed. That's what I was going to say next. Time was it showed like how you both were close, or not close, if that makes sense at the time, doesn't it? So yeah, no,
exactly. Great. That's exactly how it was.
It's great. It's great stuff. I really enjoyed reading that. I liked when you went that listening. I thought, oh, this is clever. Yeah. So no, excellent. Okay, The Vulture.
Yeah, The Vulture.
Now,
again, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I love the fact this is just literally straight to the point. This piece, and it was at that point in the book, it was so certainly the shortest so far in the collection at that stage. And I love the ending of it as well. It's about the same old bones.
It's just about a relationship that you stay in for far too long. It's not working, and you know you have to leave, and you have to get out of it somehow, but you just can't, and you keep staying, you stay, you hope things get better, and it just
it does this. Yeah, I do.
A relationship like that.
Yes, point, because I think it applies to both men and women. Obviously, that's the relationship you're talking about there as well. Because I was before I got together with Amanda, I was in a relationship with a lady for 5 years, and it was difficult. I'll leave it at that. So it was, and you need to get out, and sometimes it's the hardest point is how to break the cycle. I think sometimes,
and it's not even anything relationship that this talks about. It's not even anything terrible. Like, it's just a fact, something you get comfortable in a relationship, and you're not happy, but it's harder to leave sometimes, and it's harder to leave than it is to stay. And but I'm glad you said that you sort of related to it as well, because I didn't want this sort of collection just to be you could only relate to it if you were gay. I wanted, I think it's universal, isn't it? I think it doesn't.
Yeah, universal, this book. That's why I think it's really strong, Rhian, and honestly, because you've covered a lot of emotions in it. I really felt, and I connected a lot to this book myself because of the stuff I've gone through in the past year. No, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ceasefire. Yeah, I liked. This is another very tender poem. This one actually as well. So.
Yeah, this comes sort of towards the end of the book, and this is sort of just about just envision a future where you meet somebody and you settle down, and all that drama you've had in relationships when you're younger is you're just looking back and think, God, why did I bother? You're just content and happy with a person yourself. That's the dream, I think, isn't it? To be
say living the dream, and it's not as confident. It's not as straightforward as that. It never is in relationships. No. That's for sure of it. So no, yeah. Now
you see all these couples, and they're old and they're holding hands and they're happy, and you just think, wow, that'll be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but we've had it before. Me and Amanda, we've been out walking around. I've had it before now. A lady that was in her 60s around comes up saying she was jealous of us, and I thought, man, I was walking on hand in hand, and I thought to myself, well, I've got a intention of doing that like my mum and dad did. They've been married for 53 years now.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
they hate each other sometimes, but straight away that they'll still be there no matter what for each other.
Same as my grandparents, they were together, what, 50, 60 years, and they would just constantly argue, but they were happy and they loved each other. I think they lived in different rooms for most of their lives. And that's probably why they ended up staying together for so long, to be honest. But
Yeah, I think so as well. My parents like that. They do live in a lot of different rooms,
mm.
and I'll tell you a story off mic about them. I'm not certain I want that story one, but I'll tell you on camera. So we'll leave that for afterwards. But it's a good one, right? So yeah, okay. To wrap up on the last poem I want to ask you about
Mhm.
is on the book is right at the end of it. I think it's the second one from the end. It takes a woman on average 7 attempts to leave an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
I found this fascinating, this poem, because first of all, obviously, apart from you tell me where you got your fact from in a minute, but I
Mm.
love the fact there, the last line of it is, and I got why you said it as well, and that is why I stayed. So he's like, tell us about this piece then.
Well, the title, I've had a lot of counselling with a charity called New Pathways. Um,
Mm,
they're based in Wales, and they deal with people who've been in relationships with domestic violence, and that is a well-known fact. Apparently, I'm told it takes a woman 7 attempts to leave a relationship. So you go back, you leave for whatever reason, you get drawn back in, and that just happens. And it takes 7 attempts apparently on average for a woman to leave an abusive relationship, which I thought was just, yeah. And
fascinating. I'm gonna speak to Amanda about that afterwards, my wife, because I know she had an ex before me. And I
mm,
think must have been something similar for her, truth be
yeah,
told to you. So
obviously it's not, does not apply to everyone. Some people can leave and some people stay forever. But apparently I'm told that is what it is, and it is true for me. I think it took me probably more than 7 attempts, to be honest, over the years
yeah,
in that
yeah, no, that's fine.
relationship.
Fair
Um,
play, fair play.
yeah,
So
but this poem, I kept it short and simple. And sorry, would you ask me about the last two
yeah, the
lines?
last couple, I thought that I got it on the last couple lines. That is
Mm,
why I stayed, because the
yeah.
first stanzas, and I think it's 4 lines, and
Mm,
it's interesting because I had to really look into that one a couple of times. Like it was really beautifully wrote and subtly wrote as well. And one of those ones that you need to read it a few times before you got to get it. I think.
yeah. It was just me again reflecting, and you know when you get out of this relationship, when years have passed and you're looking back on things, and you think, God, why did I stay? Why didn't I leave? Why did I put up with that? And when it's only years later you can look back, and when you're healed from that trauma. And it was just me trying to figure out, the answer to the question, why did I stay? I think people ask themselves that, and people ask you that. You looking at from the outside at somebody in a relationship that's violent or controlling, and it's an obvious, you ask them, why are you staying with that person? Why would you stay in that relationship? And I've had friends and people who've been in relationships like that, and you question why they stay if it's that bad. Why didn't you just leave? It's not as simple as that, obviously. Hence why the 7 attempts. Um,
Yeah, great.
so that was just me looking back and yeah, trying to find a simple explanation for it.
I think you told that poem about the right time in the book as well.
Mm,
I think if you put that, I say, as your first poem in the book, I think it would have been out of place. But putting it at the end of it, you've
mm,
said so much already. I think it time to be more deeper with that. No, excellent stuff.
yeah, great.
Okay, the last bit I want to know about the book is not a poem, but right at the end of the book, if people go look at right at the end of the book and just decide that you've wrote, there's a big font at the end of it, and I presume it's in the book because I've given something the preview was lay out your unrest, etc.
That's nothing to do with me. That's a broken sleep thing. They put
Oh, is it?
that. That's
Wait, no.
I don't know what I don't know what it means. I should probably know what it means, but I think they just put that. That's in all their books. I'm not sure.
ah,
Maybe it's like a slogan of theirs or something.
fair enough. I wasn't sure if it was yours or theirs.
Or else it's mine.
Is
That
it?
was your favorite part of the book, wasn't it, as well?
No, it wasn't.
Um,
No, because when people look at the book, I didn't know that, but I felt it actually went at about. There's a lot of unrest in this book, and that's why I thought, oh, that's an interesting phrase at the end of it.
Broken Sleep are great like that. They actively look for writers who you know, are from working class backgrounds and who've got something to tell. There's, you know, again, that's just, I guess that's what they do. They look for writing that is,
Yeah.
yeah, don't want people to lay out their rest.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it sums your book up perfect then to me, that then. So, okay. Okay, a couple of quick questions to wrap up part one, and we'll take a quick break then. Is what's next for yourself? Do you have
Oh
any other
God.
books? Do you have any other books possibly on the way? I know you were working on something, weren't you, a couple of years ago about multiple sclerosis as a traveling memoir. Is
Yeah.
that still ongoing?
Then of course lockdown happened, didn't it? So that's what happened to my plans for that. But yeah, maybe I'm going back to Sweden, and like I said, I've chucked a few Sweden poems in this book, and I wasn't sure whether to do that or not. But they were important for the book because they helped a lot with me dealing with things that were going on. So I think if I do when I do write the next book, I am hoping it'll be poems about Sweden, and traveling. Whether I'll bother with the multiple sclerosis angle, I don't know, because I think it'll just be my sort of love letter to Sweden, I think. But at the moment, I'm in the middle of a counselling degree. I'm trying to be a counsellor at the moment. So all my writing at the moment is involving essays and journals for my exams. So yeah, that's taken up quite a lot of my time at the moment. But there'll definitely be another book. I mean, you know, whatever happens will happen. That's what I like to think. And
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I think I always believe in creativity. Things happen when they're ready.
yeah, exactly.
So fingers crossed, whatever you've got planned next, definitely. So, okay, let's go on the hard sell then. It's not a hard sell. I just call it the hard sell. It's me that. But obviously, where can people get hold of your book?
All good bookstores, I'm told, and of course you can go onto the Broken Sleep website, which I recommend to get from there because it's £1 cheaper on there than it is most places. And I've been told that Broken Sleep chuck a lot of freebies in with the book. I'm told. But yeah, Broken Sleep website, brokensleepbooks.com. Obviously Amazon, the big bad Amazon. Yeah, and ask your local bookshops to get it as well. Yeah, just all the usual places. I'm going to be doing a couple of readings. One in Cardiff Library coming up on the 23rd of May, so I'll be signing some books there, and yeah,
Brilliant.
various other things. So
Great. This podcast will be out before then, if people are wondering anyway. So get down to Cardiff, definitely. So I love Cardiff. It's a great city. So, but
very
anyway,
as I said, raining, but yeah, it's a nice, it's a good
so
city.
it's what you used to. It's ironic actually now. It's the sun's just come up where I live at the minute. I've had the sun pounded down me last 10 minutes. So I've had to be squinting.
Don't we have a storm Kathleen or something?
Yeah, there's definitely a storm on the way. So let's hope then we can this holds off then, so I can enjoy the sunshine when I'm catching up with a tan chatting to somebody. So where can people get hold of you, Rhian, and then if they want to speak to you?
I'm rubbish at social media. I don't have. I mean, I did have Twitter for a while, but I hated it. I thought it was just it wasn't good for my mental health. I was just reading things and getting involved in debate. I thought, oh, I don't need this. I've got enough debate in my house with my 18-year-old and Taylor Swift and debates about that. So I thought, oh, I'm getting off Twitter. I don't have Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and that's about it. I'm on Facebook, obviously. As that's where we met.
Yeah, we did.
Facebook.
You see, Facebook does have its uses sometimes. People
Yeah,
and
I love
things still.
Facebook.
So
My daughter laughs at me. She says that's for old people. Facebook is for old people.
I'm gonna say nothing, right? I'd
I
say
said,
nothing.
I feel comfortable on Facebook. I feel like I know my community on Facebook, and yeah, I'll stay
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of X or Twitter. I never got my head around it. I know
Oh,
Amanda
so
uses it a
that's
lot.
how
So.
old I am. I forgot that it's called X now,
Yeah,
Twitter.
exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. Instagram's a bit too posy for me, but anyway, it does have its uses still. So,
Yeah.
anyway, listen, Rian, we'll wrap up part one here. Let you get composed with a few poems for us, and I've got a very embarrassing story to tell you off camera, so which I'm not going to repeat in public. Thank you again, and we will see you all in
Cool.
2 minutes.